Thank you, Councillor Kloiber, for lending me your lovely iPad, so I actually have an agenda to read. We are at the May 9th, 2023 special council meeting to address our financial plan, capital and operating budgets. Can I call your meeting to order at 6:34 first of all? And the agenda, additions to the agenda, we have Diamond Valley Chamber, motion from the delegation.
So to address your question through the chair, we cannot amend the agenda because we don't have all of council present.
Councillor Fleischer-Bottom?
It's on there.
Yeah, we can amend the
I
agenda.
think we can, we have
As long
quorum
as everybody votes for it.
unanimously.
Because we're adding an item, yeah.
It held less than 24 hours, called council comment, probably 2/3 of the full council agrees to this and writing it for its getting this. I'm pretty sure we can, maybe because it's a
emergent,
special.
We can do it.
I think it has to be. It's emergent. If the councilors present
But I
agree unanimously, we can add it as an item.
I think it has to be unanimous.
This would have been a perfect Verna question. Iris, dig deep.
No.
There's no note that says
Oh,
all
I'm
must be
just
present.
running. I
It
just-
says all must be present.
All must be present, so
Can
I
I do
guess,
procedure bylaws?
so I guess then the expectation is we cannot go in closed if not everyone is present, so
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think we have that. I think it's-
no.
Because it is just going to be a motion to support the Diamond Valley Chamber delegation ask.
Mhm.
That could be just an additional
To the agenda.
motion
I would add that as
We can deal
3.8.
with that with the agenda.
You could deal in within the budget.
within the budget.
Yes.
Exactly. So we can just insert it in there and say da-da-da. Okay, let's leave it as is and we'll just make sure to address it
It's a budget item.
in the
Yes.
budget item.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Okay.
budget line item. Okay, all right, in that case, may I get a adoption of the agenda? Commissioner Gordon wins that race. Sorry, Deputy Mayor, you were slow. Nice sweater wins. All in favor? Thank you. We have 3A, the 2023 financial plan, capital and operating budgets. We'll pull it up onto the big screen here. And we have our copies here and here. Nice purpose right here. I will hand it off to Ms. Middleton. And CAO, you may present our hopefully last kick at the cat here.
So thank you, Mayor Crane through the chair. And so I'm going to put my finance hat on this evening. The CAO is somewhere out here. So I have tried to kind of narrow down the amount of paper with respect to the discussions this evening. And so, and there's not a lot of changes because we've had dialogue the last couple of sessions. We came in with a 3.5% budget increase, which was about a 9% property tax increase. We were told to go back and revise the numbers. So we went back and we revised the numbers to a 2% budget increase, which translates into a 6% property tax increase. And as indicated in the documents provided, there is winners and losers in this particular property tax adjustment because of the uniqueness in that we have two communities with significantly different mill rates. So what you will see is on the document that's attached, which is, Iris, if I can get you to just move down on the screen. Keep going, yes. So on this particular document and the second page to it, it will tell you that a 6% property tax increase gives us about $6.6 million in revenue. The residential mill rate will be 0.00705 for residential, and non-residential is 0.0086. So where we see these significant differences, and administration is recommending the 89-11 split, is that Black Diamond's residential taxes are going to go up and Turner Valley's residential taxes are going down. And this is specifically around their 2022 residential rates. There is absolutely no way around this. So what we've come to when we've done the calculation is we've come to an average. And one community, unfortunately, will see an increase. The other community will see a decrease. This is just the product of the mill rate differences between the two communities. And in this year, there's a correction that has to take place and there's no options that we have. And in respect to the non-residential, you see a change. It's different, right? Non-residential in Turner Valley will see an increase in their mill rates, and non-residential in Black Diamond will see a decrease in their mill rates. And subsequently, those variances are substantially different. So commercial in Black Diamond, in some instances, they're going to see a property tax decrease. In Turner Valley, they're going to see a significant property tax increase. So in order to make sure that coming into the following year, they are equal and the same, we have no options but to find a middle ground where they which will now be the new mill rate for the town of Diamond Valley. We have to go through this exercise. I know it's going to be painful for some residents and businesses. After this year, we will now have one combined rate for both communities. So this is just that initial year in the amalgamation process. So that is, I think, probably the biggest concern that we have going into the budget. What I did provide is what other communities are doing. So there was some desire to see what other communities are doing. Town of Okotoks had a 4.5% increase, which translates to about $112 per year. Town of Cochrane's at 3.7, Town of High River is at 2.2, and Foothills County, which we all heard has a significant tax increase, and they're at 5.48. So this is where we find ourselves. We're in a year of high inflation. Well, we've been a year and a half into high inflation. And in order for us to continue to operate and provide the service level that we think is expected and council expects from administration, we're coming in with a overall increase of 2%, which translates into about a 6% property tax increase. Keeping in mind, the other thing too we have to consider is not all of our revenue sources are going up at 6%. So we are faced with, in that respect, if you don't get that initial upside in all of your revenue sources, the only other option is the property tax, which, as you can see, makes up almost 50% of our revenue source. So a couple things that are going to come out tonight, and certainly you can ask questions of the managers here. They can give you details on what they're expecting in their particular business units in 2023. But you know, we are into May, so there are some aspects that we may not get to in our business. But if we don't get to all of the areas of our business and our reserve number is higher, that gives us that initial cushion that we've talked about for a number of years of how we're going to establish some reserves. And we have a number of areas that we need to tackle in the coming years. And I did put on the bottom of the paper, as well as we have our CMP costs that are going to be coming into effect in 2024 as well. So yeah, this one is a little bit tough to swallow, but I think the managers have gone through their budgets. We've had lots of discussion, and given the circumstances, it's unfortunate that we're in a high inflation time, and that, but on the other hand, residential tax assessments went up considerably. So this is a benefit to all of our residents that live in the community, and so that has to be something that factors into this budget as well. So I'm going to leave it for questions on the operating side, and then we can cover off. I believe the capital is a little bit straightforward. There's not as much to dig into as the operating, but I'll leave it to the operating, and I'll give everyone the opportunity, if you have questions that you'd like to direct towards Manik, Rod, Jamie, Deanna, and Craig. They're here to answer questions and talk about what they see their business and their requirements for the rest of 2023.
Okay, thank you. Okay, council. I think Karina's accurate in the fact that I think we're very comfortable with our capital budget. I think where we have the questions that we really want to dig into a little bit more is a few of these operation lines. And you'll see some of them are highlighted because those were discussion items that we pointed out that we want to come back to. Councillor Gordon wasn't at the last long session meeting, we'll call it. And we really wanted to give an opportunity for him to have some commentary as well. So with that, let us lead it off. I have comments, but I'll reserve mine after I've had council throw it there. Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, thanks so much, and management team and our CAO, thank you so much for the work that you've done on this. I know it's always challenging. I have a question that just jumped out at me right now as I'm looking at this, and then I'll get into some points I have. On the page that shows our 2023, so the updated for tonight, the 2023 budget B4, at the very first line, the general taxes, grants, and other revenue, the revenue is 7.3, expenses are 333,472. The forecast for next year is the same, but $500,000 more for expenses. Is that a typo perchance? Because it's basically identical. That's at the very top of updated for May 9th, 2023.
Second page,
Explain.
second page, top line.
Okay.
If I may, through the chair, so that tax line also includes franchise fees. So there's some additional revenue items that are included in that general line item.
Yeah, so the question is, the forecast for next year is our expenses 500 grand more than this year, even though the revenue will be the same. I'm just wondering if that's a typo.
No, that is not. That is through the chair. That reflects that RCMP costs.
So that's where we put it in.
Yes.
Okay, so that answers that question. Okay.
And to keep in mind, that number is an estimate. We're not quite sure what that is going to be, but we know that we are going to see significant increase in that particular category.
Can I do a quick follow-up?
Totally.
So let's create a separate line that says RCMP.
Well, we kind of do with RCMP there, so that's kind of why I was wondering why it wouldn't have been included there.
Yeah, well, right now it's under
Yeah,
the taxes, right? Grants and other revenue. So as we move into next year, we definitely want to outline the difference
Totally.
that you just indicated with a line item.
Yeah.
So we just make a note, but we do know right there, we can just say RCMP. And like you say, that's the best guesstimate right now through negotiations.
Yeah.
Continue.
so now I have my concerns, and forgive me, I've kind of been predisposed the last month and not been able to be here for all of the discussions. But when I add up our legislative services fees, our expenses with that, administration, municipal enforcement, FCSS, our planning and development, our economic development and special events, we have close to 3.5 million expenses just in that, with a revenue of just under 1.2 million. I have major concerns with how much we're investing in here. Planning and development, 941,000. I've shared some of these concerns before. No, we're in an open session, so I need to be very cautious about comments here. I think we need to find better efficiencies. Our FCSS and how it's distributed, yes, I know it's money in and money out, basically, a difference of about $8,000. But I think we need to look at this and say what is needed for the remainder of 2023, especially 941,000 for planning. I understand what you're saying about the potential of putting that into reserves, but I'm not supportive of having such a drastic amount seen in some of these line items when there is potential to find efficiencies, in my opinion.
Okay. Just throwing it up for comment right now.
It is, because in an open session, I've got to be very careful about what my suggestions may be.
Yes.
Because I think there are ways that when we look at the overall organization, we look at some of the potential opportunities to streamline some of our departments. I don't see that we've actually followed through with that. and I have my concerns on it.
I'm going to move to Councillor Hallway. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll respond to Jonathan first, but I'm gonna go, then I'm gonna talk, sort of two things,
Yeah.
not three. I think part of the problem is, and I think I've mentioned this to you before, is that we have a bunch of special projects in here that are like one time only, and planning, I think, is one of the departments that has some really big projects that we're getting grant money for. But it's really hard to compare year over year and to see it when it gets thrown into the budget. Like, I'd like to see those things like their own separate line items, so we know these are just one time this year, like amalgamation, you've done that for, but it would be nice maybe in some of those other departments to have, like, we have a special projects line that's empty, that if we could maybe use that instead, so then, yeah, we're not confusing what's our regular day-to-day operations with what's just this year. And then it lets us compare year over year what our true costs are to run the day-to-day operation. Because I hate it when I try and go and compare financial data from other towns and they've got these weird projects in there that just are hidden and so you don't understand. So that would be one thing that I think might be helpful moving forward. Going back to the property tax increase, I understand it hits Black Diamond well. Basically, Turner Valley side is staying flat and Black Diamond sees an increase. But I see where it gets balanced out is when we do the utility rate bylaw. Because right now things aren't even between the two towns, and Black Diamond's also paying significantly more, I believe, from what I hear from you guys, than Turner Valley. So that's a tough pill to swallow. But where we'll even out is when we're paying equal mill rates, equal utility rates. So how quick do you estimate, or how quickly do you think we can get onto that and get a new utility rate, like best case scenario?
So to address your question to the chair, Councillor Holiday, as soon as I can get this budget passed, I will go full steam ahead, and we know that the utility rate, and in the background, we've already done a significant amount of work on that utility rate review, so we will take that away, and my expectation is we can get it done before the fall. So like I said, I think we've done a considerable amount of work there.
And yeah, so in that situation, we don't know if it's going to be Black Diamond coming down to something similar to what Millerville or the Turner Valley side's been paying, or if it's Turner Valley coming up. But at any rate, whatever inequality we have by passing this property tax increase will get solved, I am assuming, once we do utility rate, so it'll be fair on both sides.
To address your questions to the chair, Councillor Holiday, we'll go through that exercise and we'll see where we can get some parity. Regardless of what happens there, there'll be parity between the two rates. So we'll both be paying the same rates, just like we're going to be paying the same mill rate for property tax purposes. So yes, that is absolutely going to happen prior to fall.
And then last question, I know we're looking at hiring new utility people. The one thing that, we've used Didsbury as our comparison throughout the amalgamation process and looking at them, our sewer expense is about 1.9 million. They're a town, they're 10% smaller than us, but they're spending about 700,000 a year on sewer as expenses. That's a huge difference. Like, we can talk about special events and NECDEV and all little things, but the big difference in our community, and I don't think we communicate it well enough, is that our sewer system is very expensive. Is there any hope? So, and we're just about to upgrade it, but is there anything we can do to find solutions to bring us, or to at least know the answer? Why is ours so much more expensive than other communities? Is it because we have the big long pipeline? Is it, utilities not, charge, what is it? Why, and can we go up and, tour their plant, tour, just to figure out why, we're more than double expense, right? And I don't know, maybe it's just financing, maybe we're paying off more stuff. It would be really nice to know, because, property taxes hit people hard, but I hear more complaints about the utility bills that people get because you never know, it's gonna fluctuate, and everyone's mad that sewer is 100%, which we all know we could make it 80%, but then trying to hire per unit rate, and it's still all the same. But yeah, I don't know, to me, I'm happy with the budget, I'm happy with the work, I know this is a transition year. But I think of anything that we could do if we could find a way to get our utilities cheaper or reduce that to me is my biggest concern.
Through the chair, Councillor Holiday, it's a great point. I don't have any current answer for you because I haven't looked at other municipalities and their systems. I'm quite inundated with managing our own, and there's a whole lot of new system to sort of learn about. But it's something to understand. You can't compare apple to apple with any system because you got to understand the system before you start comparing. It's easy to look at numbers and suggest that this system should be similar to our system. Unfortunately, when you're talking about treatment facilities, there's a number of different types of treatment facilities, and those facilities require different levels of care. So is it a level 1 facility? Is it a level 3 facility? There's a lot of comparisons you have to sort of weigh. Part of our expense is we've been contracting a service for many years on behalf of the municipality, and the bulk of those services have been very costly. And you're right, we do need to hire utility operators because Diamond Valley is soon to only have one, and we can't operate a municipality with one operator. So without doing an in-depth comparison, I don't have a legitimate answer for you. I know we have dioxide issues. I know we've discovered a recent issue that could have contributed to some of our expenses. But I don't have a legitimate or a detailed response for you.
I'm going to have it, but I'll let you follow up first and then go.
Yeah, so it's more just, there's nothing that can be done about it, but when you hire them, we get them trained. They've got to have experience running other places. So if you could just ask them for us to figure out why this is so expensive, and I don't know if it's because we're dumping in the Sheep River, so it's higher requirements, I'm not sure. But if we can have that answer, when people complain to us about their high bills, that we say, well, it's because of this, then that's why.
And through the chair, there's one other thing that we have been paying an exorbitant amount of money for is there's a historical factor that's forced Turner Valley to do excessive water testing as well. That's above and beyond what most municipalities have to go through, and that's based on potential hydrocarbons in the river. So that is a fairly costly. I think it's about $100,000 on someone.
Yeah, we heard about it.
Yeah.
They're hoping to bring it down a little bit in the coming years.
Yeah, but it's more the sewer side that I'm more,
Right.
that's the big outlier.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the budget as well. Of course, I'm not happy with it, but I mean, it is a transition year, and if we look at 11% inflation rate charges and trying to get the utilities leveled out for both communities as one, and the mill rates for both again as one. And I've seen already efficiencies being found, and that Craig has found and his staff. So I think we're only 5 months into this. I'm pretty sure that they're gonna find some more efficiencies as we go along. And you know, it's new. We didn't ever say, I didn't ever say while I was out campaigning that we would see a reduction in taxes, but we're moving forward to finding those efficiencies, and I think we've got great staff in place to find them, and we're budgeting for some of those so that they have the tools to find them. So that's my comments.
Okay. Thank you. Ron?
You want me to rant?
Maybe if you want to.
haven't
Loose.
heard anything.
No, I'm just giving you, if there's anything off the top of your head you want to mention, if not, I'll make my comments.
I'm just thinking, past budgets, I was never sold on the 0% budget increase, because eventually you're gonna have to increase it. That's just how it works. So I guess I'm okay with 2. Part of me was like, just rip the Band-Aid and do 3.5. We're gonna get yelled at anyway, but we're not going to, so. And then another comment, I think Didsbury is in rough shape road-wise. Their roads have heaved and sagged all over. So I think in 3 years, we're gonna hear some news out of there that their taxes are going up to fix everything that way.
It's similar to us on roads.
Well, they're all paved and they're all seriously like a roller coaster.
That must be what they're built on.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay, yes, I was actually gonna bring up special events because I wanted to go there. I'm just trying to find my other line item, but by all means.
Special
Sure.
events, that's one thing that I've said it before, I don't know what all the ones that we were organizing and doing on Black Diamond versus Turner Valley and what we were doing going forward. And now we've got this request for Ian Tyson. So if we can talk about what, like, is this when we decide which ones we're keeping and which ones we're not, and what the workload's gonna be and what the expectations are? Is that appropriate for tonight, right now?
So if I may, through the chair, I'm gonna, Councillor Holiday, I'm gonna direct Monique to answer some of your questions about the plans for special events and what she sees into the end of this year.
Certainly.
Maybe I could add a little context as well, just because it's something that I've been mulling over, and I don't think the line item is the correct one, or maybe it is the 185,000 we have in expenses under economic development, along with the special events, those combined is 240 for state. That's kind of what I was looking at as one lump sum. Is there a way that we can massage that into a direct amount of money that we can use as a council to enhance our economic development in a more effective and practical way versus an in-house manner? So that being said,
Sure.
I'll let you
Thank you.
address that.
Thank you very much. That's an excellent question, Councillor Holiday, and thank you, Steve Middleton, for passing it on to me. So through the chair, I really look forward actually to explaining a little bit about how those departments work, and I'll start with events. There was a specific expectation that we would go forward once amalgamated with those events that were town coordinated. It meant that it really was initiated by the town, totally coordinated by the town, paid for by the town, with the hope that we would be able to raise revenues through sponsorship. That's always a bit of a challenge, especially when you don't have a full-time or even part-time event coordinator. So we've managed this for a number of years. COVID presented some challenges, and we were still able to meet those challenges and have celebrations and meet those restrictions. Where we're at now is that we took the combined obligatory, we thought, events going forward, those that are expected through the public, that were really a service level that we were not sure as to whether or not council wanted to maintain. Over the years, I've certainly been a proponent of trying to encourage a third party to come in and potentially present that. But we didn't really have the policy, nor sometimes even the time to be able to explore that. So suggesting, for example, that a community group should come forward and have the expertise, the resources, the volunteers, and some of the dollars that it takes to be able to get this off the ground. We knew that it would take some time to be able to really nurture that and get it to that point. The intention, in my opinion, would be to move towards that. At the moment, we are committed not only to 4 or 5 that are municipally coordinated events that we have an obligation to present, but also over 5 or 6 very large third-party events that we're assisting with, where that requires some of our resources, some attention, some permitting, and some planning for sure. And that is really being handled by less than a half FTE, if you must know. It's requiring a lot of extra time just to be able to make sure that, first of all, we always want to meet safety expectations, and then we also want to be able to present a professional family event that includes as many volunteers as we can because that keeps costs down. But all of that takes a lot of care and a lot of training and a lot of organization. So coming up, of course, is we've renamed it Diamond Valley Parade Day. It includes the parade. We were able to manage, really just as a thought that this would make more sense, an organization that had some experience within its board and its staff to be able to organize the parade portion of it. And therefore, we have a partnership agreement with the Boys and Girls Club, BGC Foothills Club. That has alleviated a lot of the staff time that's required on our part. However, we must still continue to pay the expenses that they incur because it's still a town municipal event. We also have to pay for their time and resources to be able to help with that. It would be the same as if we had hired essentially a separate special event coordinator. That's just one aspect. Sometimes I've seen estimates of about 3,000 to 4,000 people that attend that. That's a huge amount to be able to coordinate. The other portion of that, of course, is the Diamond Valley Day portion, which attracts between 12 and 1,500 people on a nice day. That is something that has been a tradition for over, 12, 15 years, probably longer than that, and it's grown over the years. And it's also been something where we've tried very hard to be able to solicit help from the volunteers. And every year it seems to be a slightly changing model whereby we've offered honoraria to those community groups to say, BGC in the day, if you can provide us with 10 volunteers, we can provide you with X amount of dollars for your efforts. And that type of thing, when we look at the numbers, are probably about 50 to 60 volunteers per event. We also we were committed to Canada Day. That was inherited in terms of the combined amalgamated Diamond Valley. Music Fest stats vary a little bit. I've heard that it's up to 2,500 people per over 2 days, but the expenses were tremendous, and the amount of organization that's required and having it so weather dependent is one of those issues and events that we really have to think about whether or not it's worth the effort. And this year, simply, it will be a full report that you'll see at the May 17th meeting. It simply wasn't possible. We just don't have the staff to do it, and there was no one interested. I did try to reach out to a couple of groups to find out if they were, and they just simply didn't have the capacity. In the meantime, we had 3 requests that council will remember that you'll be helping to decide on this evening that could potentially carve up some of those dollars remaining in the events. So when we look at the amount of the events, one has to consider everything that covers. So it's the cost of the suppliers, it's the cost of the honoraria, it's the cost of anything else that might go along with that supplements those events, such as security, flaggers, face painters, try and hire those and make sure that it's coordinated. Hiring staff, making sure that people are there to show up, but the majority of it is done through volunteers. It's a tremendous effort. And then beyond that, we have other events such as the New Year's Eve event, as well as the Light Up event for Diamond Valley. Those we are trying to hive off to a point whereby we can, for example, engage the Chamber of Commerce to be able to assist with any of the business development side of it, where we're engaging the businesses in the Light Up. So there's still though coordination, communication, some of the seed money that's involved to be able to make it happen. So this year is very much a transition and identifying what is truly the expectation and the needs versus what would be nice to have. We get all sorts of great ideas that are floated around, but there's typically very little capacity to make it run. It's this idea and it's parked at my desk. I say, you should do this, but really it isn't what we are looking at in terms of an economic development strategy unless we expand that to include more resources towards it. It was part of the 2012 economic development strategy as far as Turner Valley in the day, and I'm sure for Black Diamond, whereby events were seen as an attractor for new investments. So somebody new comes to the community to take a look, they experience an event, they have a great time, they take a look then, hey, I like this place, come back to visit, start to spend dollars, potentially invest in a business, potentially buy a home, their kids are here, on the ripple effect goes. So I would say that it's definitely that door that should remain open and we should continue to be inviting. And what we never want to do is fail in that experience for the public. So we work really hard to be able to do it. But do I feel right now that it's warranting a full FTE? No, because we're in transition, and but we do need to watch it. So the amount that is identified here is what it's currently costing. Where I think that this can be hived off is as long as we have those basic needs of what council and we expect to deliver to the public, the remainder would be such that we would have an amount. And what's coming forward also May 17th is an enhanced policy that says for events specifically, we can go to a maximum, or we can, provide an enhanced and expanded amount that now groups can apply for. But they would have to provide us with a full plan, so it's not just hand it over and say, hey, good luck with it. There are also some checks and balances in there. It's an agreement that's similar to what we've just done with the Boys and Girls Club. And it really ties them to that obligation to say that they will deliver. And then there's a plan B. So if they back out, what happens? But then the responsibility and the commitment and the engagement becomes the communities as opposed to the town just delivering a service that some may or may not feel is worthy of taxpayer dollars. And also with the third parties, they're more able to solicit any kind of sponsorship dollars or donations. Right now we're limited, and we also don't have a donation policy by which we declare and identify what types of businesses we're going to obtain sponsorship dollars from. So without that thought, it's really up to the manager of the day to decide whether or not it's appropriate. So far, we haven't really had that challenge. That's the event side. I can certainly answer any questions regarding that, or I can go on to the economic development.
Let's keep rolling.
With economic development,
What's the events that we're not paying for, but you're helping with? You said there's 5 or 6.
It would be the car show.
Car show, yeah.
Yeah, the music festival, well, potentially we are paying for that, it depends if there's a request. And when we say we're not paying, that doesn't mean that they won't apply for funding. And we also have the request for the cornhole tournament. We also have 3 or 4 others that come through town. So the Kidney March, that brings, it can be anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people going through. We used to have the Run to Cure Cancer, to Conquer Cancer. We have a number of different bicycle events. This year we have what's called the Gravel Grind, and it'll be 200. They're working with Eau Claire Distillery, and we're supporting it in terms of just being able to provide them with information. But initially they were going to set up at the Scott Seaman Arena. So again, there would be a tremendous amount of staff time that would be required. That's not to say that they wouldn't be paying for it. It's just the commitment of time that you may or may not have. But that's important because now again, you're attracting new investment. So these are people primarily from Calgary and this area that are coming out to, again, experience the town. Now, are they going to be dropping lots of dollars that particular day? Maybe not, but it's the exposure to the community. Okay. And then there have been 3 or 4 where they've been floated, but they haven't really grabbed any roots as yet. So we're not spending a lot of time on those. Others are special projects where, again, it may be an event, but not quite to that size, where we're supporting other organizations. You know, every event, such as a golf tournament, is also a charity donation. And therefore, with respect, I say that council is making the decision to use tax dollars towards specific organizations and fund those. So it's something to be taken very seriously, and that's why I'm really insisting on continuing with the corporate support fund, whereby it comes to council for consideration. Everyone has an opportunity to be able to submit. It's not just, that's a pet project that Monique would like to work on, therefore she's recommending it. Never. I am saying though, that if you take a look at all of the organizations that we support, last meeting alone, we had STARS and we had CRAS, and there are a number of others that are looking with handouts because they require it. It helps support their organization. But again, with respect, for sure, that we have to consider whether or not that is considered a valuable organization to support, and if you have the dollars. You may believe in the cause, but do you have it? Are you able to cover the costs? For the economic, were there any others? Did I answer that?
Summer games, are you helping with that as well?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Sorry,
That was the biggest one up there. Yeah.
I guess I was so immersed, I completely forgot. I apologize.
And the Millerville half marathon?
Yes, so that one is a great example of a third party coming in, has everything organized. They talk to us in usually December, the year prior. We circulate it around. We do the same thing every year. They're very appreciative. 850 runners come through here. They say, thank you very much. They have everything well organized, the volunteers along the trail, and off they go. But they don't stop. It's something where it's just an ongoing type of event. But again, more exposure. You hope that they come back someday, but there's no way of tracking that. So it costs us, other than, I would say, a little bit of staff time if we have CPOs on duty that particular day. And if it was a cost that we could not incorporate within the regular day schedule, then we would charge that out. But they put up their own signage, they set up their own volunteer stations, they clean everything up. There is no trace of them after they've left, and they're through within 4 hours. The summer games, sorry, I was just going to say, and Craig may be able to add to this. So there's, I would say, indirect costs primarily, but others that we weren't really anticipating. And again, as a manager, we didn't really know what we were coming into as far as our obligations. So certainly supervisors filled us in, this is what we're looking at, and we were well versed in that respect, but we still haven't really fully understood the plan of how many can we expect. We have a basic number, and then what is it that the expectations are. So the summer games are certainly covering the cost for the athletes to shuttle them around, to be able to figure out billeting or accommodations, to be able to put together all of their packages. But they, of course, invite the municipality to participate in some way. So we might want to put together little promo packages that provides a discounted rate for purchases at one of our local retailers, or several of them. That would take a little bit of coordination. We are helping to amplify the message. We are helping to recruit volunteers through the messaging, but we're not doing it directly. So really, the mothership is Okotoks and that organization, and they dictate to us. But Craig can probably add in terms of other costs that are needed just to make sure that our facilities are ready. And as he said before in previous meetings, that we really showcase, the beautiful area that we have, and that our facilities are really ready to, to host this type of an event.
Yeah, if I'm to add to that through the chair, when it's correct, this is an opportunity that Diamond Valley probably wants to take full advantage of with showcasing that site, because currently it's not really very presentable, and we don't want people to come here and not ever want to come back. So, these are some unexpected expenses, and it was by no fault of anyone. I think the circumstances aligned such that 3 years ago, Black Diamond agreed to participate in the summer games. 2 years ago, we started heavily negotiating going into amalgamation, and then everything just, and then somewhere along in there was a skate park planned for that same site, and they all just aligned all at the same time, and now here we are with a site that's really not quite ready or prepared for that volume of people without, if we want to showcase that site, it's not really ready for it. So there's an expense that's recommended if we want to showcase the best of Diamond Valley. We're going to have to invest in it.
Could I add to that?
You can.
Yeah, and just that point, because I sat through the negotiations with the golf course, and I've worked with Les on Parks and Rec, and throughout the last year and a half, kind of the finish line product that you're talking about right now. And there was not initially really much cost to Black Diamond, and that was the lucrative part about joining in with Okotoks. So at this point, obviously, there's some finish line things, and I think that it's well within our means at this point of considering what we've got. We've got a great track for potentially 5 years in partnership with the golf course, and this is going to be a huge thing for the community to have after the games. So unexpected or not, I think it's a huge investment for the community going ahead. So really looking forward to seeing that site, and I think the rest of Alberta will really appreciate seeing it too. So thanks for all your work, and Monique, thanks for your work, and the team as well. You guys have been working a lot. So yeah, back to you, Barry.
Okay.
I have one question on special events,
Yes,
if I may.
please. Yeah.
So, Monique, you mentioned that we're partnering up with the Boys and Girls Club for BGC now regarding our parade day. you have an idea of, I know we can't go into specifics, you mentioned that there'll be some remuneration for the time that they're investing.
Mhm.
So overall, that entire day, what are our expenses looking like? What's an estimate?
Likely around $22,000.
And that includes the support for the BGC?
Yes,
Okay,
22 to 25.
thank you.
Heather, go ahead, please.
And for that day, have we gone after any donations? Are we getting any donations on the revenue side to help with that expense
Mhm.
for that day?
So thank you for the question to the chair. Yes, what we have asked as part of the agreement that we have with BGC is for them to solicit donations, but we've developed the sponsorship package, so there's different levels. I'd be happy to share that, and in fact, I do believe that it's posted to the website. So one is a parade donation, it would go specifically to those expenses, and the rest is for Diamond Valley Day. In the past, we have attempted to either get a naming sponsor, somebody that would be able to drop, some significant dollars towards it. But again, because of amalgamation, we didn't have time to get on this in time to be able to apply for some of those grants. And so we just hope that we're able to collect what we can at this point. I do not expect that there will be significant revenue collected. We just don't have the resources to do it, but hopefully through BGC, they'll be able to collect some at least towards the parade.
So just going back to the Ian Tyson concert and the cornhole event and the car show. The car show really didn't ask for any dollars, but a little staff assistance on road closures, etc. Cornhole is pretty much, in my mind, promoting a business, and it's a one-time thing. And so I'm not 100% sure that I support that at all. But the Ian Tyson concert, that ask is going to be a one-time ask, and it's going to be an annual event, and it's going to be hosted by the chamber. I support that event, and yes, there will be some town staff that will be needed, but I would support that special event because it will continue into the future. The chamber did say this was going to be a one-time ask. Once they get it moving and off the ground, it should just keep moving on its own without having to come back to us. You weren't at that presentation, I don't think, Jonathan.
Yeah, it was.
Were you? So I support that one simply because it will bring people in every year, and it will be run by an outside organization. So I don't know where it would fit in. I don't know if we actually need to give the amount that was asked for, but I think that we should support it financially.
Everybody agrees on that one.
When do we make a motion on that?
Well,
At the end, or do we just,
I think we can make it right now.
well, I would just make it right now, so don't forget.
Exactly.
We forgot last week. Don't forget.
Funding, we had some money in the budget for the music festival on Canada Day, which we're not doing. So,
13.
but we do need to talk, are we gonna do fireworks on Canada Day still?
So thank you for the question, Councillor Holiday, through the chair. Yes, we will continue with that as well. What we're trying to encourage and get chamber involvement with is to engage the business community so that possibly through the revised event policy, we could grant where needed some funding back to the chamber and encourage something that would be sort of like a Calgary Sled Island, where there would be a number of different venues hosting different entertainment throughout Canada Day, and try to encourage more circulation into the downtown areas, both Turner Valley and Black Diamond. So if a business wished to do that, right now they're not eligible for it, but if they were to apply for an event fund and they were responsible to match those funds, then there is a possibility, I would like to see that it could be expanded. So as opposed to one massive music festival, that one could move over to the music festival that's being proposed by the chamber, for example, some of those funds. And then the balance of it could be followed up through the revised event and community corporate support funds to allow for some seed money to be able to get the businesses to essentially manage their own event. And then the fireworks would take place later on, and yes, the town would be involved in that.
So now we'll see that May 17th.
You will. My understanding as well is that there have been funds, donations that have been collected for the fireworks, but this is a new side. I certainly have taken care of the fireworks on New Year's Eve for Turner Valley, so I have experience in that, but I've not dealt with the Black Diamond side of it yet. So once I have a few minutes to take a look at that, find out a few more costs that are involved and logistics, because there's quite a bit of, there's resources that are required for that. That's definitely a go, but hopefully we're also able to encourage businesses and organizations to get involved on their own with a little bit of seed money.
So council, if we move ahead tonight with approving some form of this budget, then we can simply make a motion and that from special events, the money is allocated for.
Budget needs to be approved before we get a
So
motion.
we approve the budget tonight after our discussions, if that's where we end up. And then directly following that, we could just say from special events, allocate the Diamond Valley Chamber $18,000. Right, it would be.
Put a big note right here for myself.
So if I may, through the chair, Mayor Crane, so I've added some additional funding into special events. Some of it is to cover off the potential stars when they came to present. And so there is some additional funds in there with the expectation that perhaps we were going to do some of these activities. So I have added those monies in.
Okay, that's good to know.
I missed that, sorry. Just for point of clarification, real quick. Did you mention STARS was coming out of special events?
So through the chair, STARS is in that particular cost center, is in special events. So through the chair, previously the town of Turner Valley has not supported STARS, and so that's where it was sitting in the Black Diamond.
Oh, okay.
So that's, we can move it wherever we would like it to be.
Mhm.
And their request was
$3.
15,000, I think?
3 per.
18,000?
So yeah, through the chair, so in the past, Black Diamond had it in their budget, but we have not had it in the Turner Valley budget because we have not supported STARS.
Thank you.
Go Heather and Cindy.
Their request was $3 per capita, correct? We don't have to go with $3 per capita. So that's another decision that we need to make. Now that it's a combined community and it's more population, they're going to get more that way. So I would recommend that we look at $2 back to the original. So not taking away from the service at all. It's just
It'd be an upgrade for them. It goes from 16,200 to 10,800. So. I'm gonna go Cindy and then I think Jonathan.
I'm good.
Yeah, okay, Cindy.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing, I'm good with 2. Light up Black Diamond, how extensive or how involved is the town in that one versus, I think we're always at a basketball tournament, so I always miss it. So I'm not even sure what that one looks like for, like, what is it, staff resources, time, money, what does that one entail?
Thank you for the question through the chair. My understanding is that it's less than the other ones. However, we are responsible for hiring the suppliers for the wagon rides and so on and so forth, and reaching out to all the businesses, getting them set up so that they can participate in the mapping advertisement that is partnered through the Western Wheel, advertising and promoting each one of the venues. There is also Santa visits, all of that's coordinated with support through the fire department. Naturally, there would be honoraria that would be provided accordingly. And it's the time, so somebody needs to get on that. And that falls to me right now.
Turning Brendan and Cindy.
She has a follow-up.
Sure.
Which is gonna give
Yeah,
some
I'm just wondering,
context.
is wagon rides there, wagon rides at New Year's, maybe we should look at moving New Year's, just we provide fireworks and encourage other groups to do other things, keep the skating rink open for the, you know,
If I may,
like, I'm just wondering, do we need both of those?
certainly, but I would argue through Mayor Crane that people anticipate that kind of experience. It's part of an overall family event. I think they'd be very disappointed if there were certain elements of it that were missing. So I would just caution us to, instead of cut back on the experience, I'd rather have fewer and better. So if perhaps Light Up was something that the chamber would be interested in getting more involved with and supporting that, and again, we potentially could provide seed money, less staff resources, and potentially a better product at the end of it, because now the businesses are directly influencing what that looks like. Although I think the product right now has been outstanding. But remember, the service level, whether it's decided by council or staff, is an expectation by the public. So as soon as we withdraw that or change it, decrease it, dilute it, I think it really affects the experience for us, especially locals. They enjoy that.
Yeah, having attended here, obviously would be a little bit tricky, because we kind of have two downtown focuses in Diamond Valley now, like, Millennium Park kind of being that other part of downtown. I've always enjoyed Light Up, and it is, outside of the admin time, it seems to be fairly business oriented, because you just walk from the AG Strip basically up to Hard Knocks. Rolla caught a fire last year. You can get hot chocolate on the corner. It seems like it's fairly low key in terms of dollars, but I really love the commerce suggestion. Just again, having those volunteers jump in, but more on the businesses and provide the money for them to operate. I really like that. I like that approach, moving ahead a lot. But I also like your point too, Councillor Holiday, about potentially you could blend them. There's not if you wanted to move a Light Up more to like a New Year's party as well. I don't know what that would look like, but I think it would be a little bit trickier because of the distance between the two towns for Light Up Diamond Valley. It'd have to be in one or the other, unless you did a sleigh ride back and forth, but I don't know.
I'll comment if I could. I think it still has to be too big of a stake.
Yeah.
Is my thought.
Yeah.
Light Up is like Okotoks has their Light Up, and then there's Black Diamond's Light Up.
Mhm.
And it's a very well sought after, expected event, as Mr. Blunt pointed out. New Year's Eve, same thing, lots of volunteers show up, the Boy Scouts usually handle all the food, for example, the skating, the fireworks is also well attended. I guess I want to move forward a little bit in terms of what my thought is, and like Councillor Gordon, I have to be careful in how I phrase this, but I'd love to take economic development and its $185,000 tag of expense, and special events, which has 124 on this particular line item, with a revenue of 65, which is good. And revenue for economic development is 188, so I mean, it's almost perfect balance, but I'd like to smash them together and then cut it in half and create an envelope of money that we can direct to specific events, very clean and clear and concise, versus right now it seems we're gonna deal with what comes in, and I get it. We have staff that have to do the Heinz 57 role. They have to be facilitators, communicators, event planners. They have to do everything. And I think that we do have some options like the chamber, like volunteer organizations that we can empower through seed monies that can then be doubled through grants and so on. And it will actually reduce our line item a bit, but maybe give it more clear, defined direction is what I'm looking at. And that's kind of where I'm pointing. So my question would be, under the economic development and combining that with special events, is that too egregious to cut on that capacity and still have the expectation? I guess that would be a good way to phrase it. And you would be the perfect person to answer, because your fingers are in all of those little pieces of puzzle, so if I could.
Mayor Crane, could I just ask one question
Sure.
before Minnick answers that question?
Sure.
Is the EDO position still in economic development? And you know, from conversations that we've had with the EDC, the old IEDC, the anticipation is that an EDO maybe isn't needed.
Yeah, and that's kind of
so
rolled into the answer I'm hoping.
So I just wonder about carrying, we've been carrying that cost for 3 or 4 years now. And if we're not gonna hire it, we either need to figure out what to do with it. And maybe that's part of this discussion that we're having right now.
That's perfect follow-up segue. Excellent, actually.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thompson, excellent point. And through the chair, I just want to step back to, and then I'll go forward quickly. And one of them is with regard to organizations such as STARS and CRAS. They're requesting really a donation. It could be viewed as an essential service, but I would prefer that they be removed from special events because there's very little that we would actually do. If anybody's affected, it would be the other departments, such as the fire department, and they may have more to say about that in terms of adding some value content to it. But when it's put under special events, it unfairly exaggerates the cost of them because there's really nothing for us to do there. So I'd like to remove that particular request out of it and drop that number down immediately. So moving forward for the last 3 years, more than that now, but in 2019, when the IEDC was formed, the intent was first to develop an economic development strategy jointly, Black Diamond Turner Valley, to move forward for business investment and attraction. A number of projects evolved out of that and they have been successfully completed. Currently, we're in the midst of a revision for the strategic plan to really identify what the value and vision statement is and to also target essentially the type of businesses that any of these efforts would be pointed towards. You know, what type of businesses does Diamond Valley potentially want to try and attract? Well, that really is coupled with planning and development. We cannot do one without the other. And at the moment, the boots on the ground for those types of inquiries are happening through planning and development. So it's already absorbed through the staff. And they are more familiar, much more so than what I would be, in terms of any inquiries about different types of businesses that are interested, or certain lands that are available, owners that may or may not be willing to sell or consider it. And that is information that is privileged because of the nature of that particular department. And it serves Diamond Valley very well at this point in time because of the model. It's already incorporated into existing staff. To hire an EDO that would then just be potentially duplicating that effort, I don't see the value. Where I see the value is to put aside dollars similar to what Turner Valley portion did in the past. And that was assigned to marketing initiatives or special projects that could be hired out via contract. So it wasn't a position or person, it was a project. So take the position out of it. It wasn't a make work project. Where Black Diamond was sitting was that they always set aside, and this is at council's direction, they put aside reserves to be able to afford an EDO. So that position was available at the time that we pulled the trigger. If you recall, last, I think it was December, maybe November, council approved the Economic Development Committee's suggestion and recommendation to go forward with hiring. So we've already got a job description, we have the ad ready, we are ready to be able to present that. But I'm suggesting, and this is without discussion with the IEDC formally, now the Diamond Valley Economic Development Advisory Committee, that it be relooked at. And subsequently, yes, to answer your question more directly, I would not combine that into a position, but certainly a project whereby those funds are assisting in forming the guidelines, if you will, and the direction for economic development as one strategy. And then the others can be assigned. So as long as there is sufficient dollars allowed for economic development to pursue other things that come out of that strategic plan, not just special events, then I would be certainly in favor of it. Do we need $185,000? I think that's what was quoted. In my estimation, not for just an economic development project. So again, without consulting the committee on this, but we do have 2 members currently that are sitting on council that can speak to it.
Excellent. Thank you for that very detailed answer. And that would be a perfect segue for you, Councillor Clover.
So how does council feel about putting aside $50,000 for economic development and giving the EDC some sort of directive or free rein with a correcting bit right on there, to come up with some projects? And of course, that would come back to council, have to be approved. But 50,000 for half-year projects, and I'm not saying they have to spend it all. But how does council feel about something like that?
Come back to council and get projects approved, but not free rein on giving.
I said there was a correcting bit on there, I'm not giving them a pot of $50,000. No, they would come up with a concept within the confines of $50,000 in this budget, and they would have to come to present to council, and council could hem and haw about it and say
Okay,
yay or
yeah.
nay.
Basically,
Okay,
well, oh,
that's
sorry,
fair.
I'll let you.
Yeah, so, I'd be okay with that. We'd have to change the terms of reference and stuff, but it would be a recommendation back to council, same as any other committee.
That's what we
They
got,
don't
we're an
have,
advisory
they don't
committee.
have an actual budget.
No.
They would
Yeah.
have to bring it back to council for approval. I'd be good with that, but what kind of projects are you thinking of? Would it be like the music festival
No,
or?
no.
No, what kind of projects?
Economic development is definitely not the same as special events. They
Okay, yeah,
run in tandem, but they're very different.
okay,
I don't know, like a marketing drive into Calgary that,
Okay.
you know, they're gonna go to the builders thing, the big convention that they have, and we'll have a booth. Or we want to, I don't know, draw some sort of fracking business from North Dakota to set up shop here. Anything like that.
okay, yeah, no, that clarifies for me.
If I may,
Cindy
Don't like
and
my
then-
ideas?
yeah.
Can I go Jonathan first?
Oh, I can-
So as to pick up on what Mr. Locke has mentioned and what Councillor Clover has mentioned, we're hoping to finalize our strategic plan this coming Thursday night. At least finalize some action items, and it's already been discussed, a digital ad campaign, because we're amalgamated. So how can we market our community? So all of these things, we have people around the table who have great connections to some different companies that will serve us well. And that's the kind of projects that's already been discussed. Can we do these things? And as an advisory committee, it comes back to council. Council has to approve the budget request. I'm sure Ms. LeBlanc would put up an RFP to exactly identify the cost involved, and we move forward. And I think that's, I would totally recommend we follow that advice.
Cindy? Excellent.
Yeah, I'm still a little fuzzy because now we do have a operating chamber and a lot of same people are involved in the chamber and the EDC. Is there
I know.
not, that's not the true?
No.
Okay, and so is there a need for, you're still seeing value in the EDC?
So the chamber is to support existing business, not so much attracting new. Economic development is to showcase Diamond Valley as a wonderful, perfect place to come, set up shop and increase our commercial tax base.
Cindy and Heather, I'm gonna have a comment.
Yeah, and I would actually like to completely separate special, or events from EDC, because that economic development should be on Rod's plate, in my opinion, in the planning department. I'd rather beef up the planning department than for the economic development side. And I think we've got all these master plans that get done and different projects that get done in the planning department year after year, and it should just really follow under a natural, you know, set aside 50,000 a year in the planning department that goes towards ECDF type thing.
Keep things in line.
Look for grants or whatever. I think that's the way it should go. This corporate support grant program and making that bigger, to me, I'm interested in that and getting away from, like, the community support grant I had a problem with because it's all the same people that are going to the Lions Club coming here to ask us for $500. Now we're amalgamated, things are busier, staff time's tight. I don't like dealing with those. I'd rather just say, Lions, here's $10,000, you can beef that up for anybody that's used our rented the Flyer and Derrick or rented the arena, and you could hand out the money for us so we don't have to deal with it. Something like that. I'd like to get away from the little stuff and move towards bigger, more impactful, just like you're saying. Let's do things well, less of them and better, rather than all these little $500. We're past them, we're doubled in size. I think we need to go for the bigger fish than the littler ones, is the direction I personally would like to take, but I don't know how everyone else feels. But I think it's a waste of staff and council time dealing with $500 to the basketball team, which we took well advantage of it. But we're past that, I think.
Just to come back and just refocus my kind of thought, because I think Veronica coined the 50,000 perfectly, and then Heather, I'll go to you. So what I was getting at is, here we have 309,000, those two line items combined, special events and the DEF. So I'd like to see like a 50 for EDC, a 50 for special events, and a 50 that is at a council directive. Maybe that still falls into the exact same envelope as yours. So remove that 309, turn it into a 150. We'll see a reduction, but we'll see clear and concise communication on what we support and where it goes, because right now it's just kind of jumbled. And like you said, Heather, we've supported the position for 3 years and it just continues to get overlapped again and again. So let's clean this one up, set it at 150 for both departments. So you can go 100 and call special events 50 if that's what you want to do. But the 100 is then at council's discretion. So if we have special projects come in, we want the chamber and we want to support the chamber, we have that presentation, we have a kitty of 100,000 we can support with, and anything else that comes along, including IUC. And then special events money, well, staff is going to be doing that anyway. And if they need to bolster it, well, we have a small kitty that we can pull from that we are actually using versus rolling over year. So am I making sense?
Sort of.
Okay.
I don't, yeah.
I think Edmund would have to look at the numbers and come back with an idea.
Heather,
Yeah.
and then I'll come to you.
So back to this, like I don't support that at all. I don't know how the rest of council feels about it. I don't think that they do enough for this community to support it. Stars, could it go under, like we had the RCMP DARE line, could we change that to Stars DARE or something?
No dare, no dare.
We're not supporting DARE, the school here doesn't want the DARE?
Thank you through the chair. The program is disbanded, it's no longer offered.
Oh, okay, so, yeah, so if we could put that there. I support dropping the economic development down to 50,000 and having the terms of reference, or however you want to handle that, fixed. I support giving another $50,000 to special events. But I'd like to see the 85,000, the additional 85,000 go back into reserves.
So leave it in. Basically is what you're saying then.
No, I would like 50 for economic development for their projects.
Yeah.
I would like 50 for things such as supporting the chamber for the Ian Tyson event. Council discussion added to special events. And the rest of it, I'd like to see go back into reserves. Well, just in case down the road you want that EDO position. You
So
know,
allocated reserves,
pardon me?
an allocated reserve, sorry?
Yeah, I don't know where it came from on the BD side, because it was sitting in the reserve. But I would support that and move forward with that. That gives, however, we can have staff come back and give us their ideas, how they'd like to see it allocated. And
Okay, I'm gonna go with Cindy first. I think you're missing 50 grand, but that's okay, we'll come back to that. Cindy?
Well, there's revenue attached with economic development
Right.
here, so
Yeah.
what,
That's from the reserve, right?
is that just a transfer from reserve?
I believe I can speak to this, but I will look for a little bit of support and clarification. So through the chair, that's all. My understanding is that all the business license revenue is going towards ECDEV. I don't know, the reserve, I believe, was what was set aside. Yes, so we've had this discussion and I've argued that it actually belongs in planning, but
No, don't tell them that.
but it was a source of revenue.
Roger Moore, heart over there. Yeah, in the chest.
God knows where.
I trust me, no department likes to give up too much money, but it was recognizing that those dollars were supposed to be for economic development, strategic priorities, and the marketing plan. So it was a source of revenue to offset that, along with other things such as chamber membership and any support for the chamber. However, with the reserve that's been held through the town of Black Diamond previously, then it offset that. So if you wanted to take a look at realignment, now would be the time to do that.
Okay, well, that's a whole different bag of worms now.
Mhm.
That's a whole different bag of worms. My brain can't compute, and it took me long enough to figure out how we could shave off 150. Now it's in a different part. So
Just
Yeah.
Just a note that.
we're gonna go to you next, Chris.
Excuse me, just to interrupt a little bit, but to maybe clarify a point that Iris has brought to my attention, and it's that special event amount of 124. My understanding is that still includes the special projects such as STARS, the donations, STARS and CROWS.
Right.
Is that correct? So just to consider that moving out of that particular amount when you're reallocating those funds. Thank you.
Brendan, yeah, go
Is
ahead.
it easier to leave it and move it to reserves at the end of the year, or like, are we going around a little bit?
I think at this
I
point.
know
might
it looks
be-
great to take it away,
That's what I was going for.
but if we're gonna transfer it to reserves anyways, we leave it as a line item right now. At the end of the year, we transfer it to reserves and we look at it clean slate,
It's a win.
clean slate next year. Corinne knows that we're looking at it. Just a suggestion.
So if I may, through the chair, Deputy Mayor Kelly, excellent idea. As I listened to the discussion, I listened to the discussion from our group as well. We are in alignment as to there are things we need to do with some of these particular business items. We can still take some of that feedback away for this year. We have to consider, though, there are salaries that are in some of these businesses as well. So when we say 50,000 here and 50,000 here and 50,000 here, we have to consider that there are people that are attached to these departments. So it's not as easy as just carving it down, although I think administration understands. We understand loud and clear, and so when we look at the budget and we say that this is what we're moving forward with, it doesn't mean that we're not doing work in the back end to create as many efficiencies and improve processes and take that critical look at how we operate to make improvements. It doesn't mean we take this budget away and we say, okay, we're done. Everyone just do what you normally do. We're looking for efficiencies every single day. We are working through the amalgamation and seeing where we can make improvements into the budget. But what this starting does is our depreciation on an annual basis is $2.4 million. So we have reserves here. If we meet the budget targets with what we have set, that gives us reserves of about just over $600,000, which isn't a considerable amount. And if you think that we have a lot to do this year that we're not going to get to, we have a lot to do in the next few years. And Rod and I had a very in-depth conversation about what we have to do in the planning and development side, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So although we can take these back and we can make all of these changes and adjustments, I think for the dollar value that you're going to get out of this, it probably isn't what you're probably looking for on a grander scale, but we are hearing loud and clear from these discussions of what you're looking for. And so that gives us a really good framework as we come into the next budget cycle, which, by the way, is going to start in 3 months, maybe less for us. And so it gives us some really good ideas to take back in administration's perspective to work on and to move forward and incorporate them going forward. So we have made a lot of efficiencies. We have decreased FTE counts. We have looked at things hard. We are trying to get to one location, which gives us the opportunity to look at what we can do with a second location as far as, do we divest it, what do we do? And those are big projects, and administration needs to get on it. We need to do a facility review, which we haven't had time to do. We need to get everyone in one facility. There are so many things that we need to do operationally, but we are hearing loud and clear the feedback that we're getting, and it gives us some really good ideas for what we can take back as we move into the next budget cycle.
Well, yeah. Okay, well, shut up, Mary.
I'll give you a motion, Mary.
I gotta say any time.
If I could.
Yes.
So, stars drop down to 2 per capita and move it to its own line item.
Yep, I have that.
So that's gonna change the request somewhat that you were looking for tonight in your budget amount.
So through the chair, what we can do is, if there's small adjustments we're gonna make, if I can get a guarantee, we bring this back next week and it's done, we can take these small adjustments back and change some line items if you'd like to see things like a couple things for special projects. We can move those to their own line and make it transparent. So we can make those small changes. If we don't have to, I would like to be able to leave the bottom line the same.
Yeah.
If I may.
Yeah, if I
Respectfully.
could, Heather, changing from 3 to 5, like I say, is a difference of $5,000. Well, that's $5,000 that we need for the bump up the motion for the Diamond Valley
No,
Chamber.
what do you, what?
You're
2
talking
per
$3.
capita to,
$2 versus 3.
Yeah.
Is 18,000 versus 12.
I know, but I still don't want to do 3.
No, and I agree. But for 6,000, we go.
For what it's worth, I still want 3, but I'm just putting it out there. I've heard largely 2 tonight, but we service the most Stars Rescue in this area, and I'm still fine with 3, but that's just my piece. I've heard majority talking 2 tonight, so that's fine.
We need some motions regarding some of these changes so that staff know what they're going back to change. What about
Kraz drop.
Kraz?
Kraz drop.
Let's,
Okay, everybody agrees Kraz is a no-go?
All in favor or?
All in
Yeah,
favor?
okay.
Motion?
Just put it out there.
Motion's not fun crowd.
Not fun
Yeah,
Kraz?
so who's making it?
Remove crabs.
Mayor, not fun Kraz?
No,
Remove
remove
from
crabs
the
from
budget line.
from the budget.
Funding for
2023
crabs. All in
operating
favor?
budget.
All opposed?
Make sure she reads all.
We love your air.
Love that air.
Stars,
Go ahead.
move to reduce the per capita amount requested from $3 per capita, $3 per capita down to $2 per capita.
All in favor?
Can we reword that?
We're gonna get it. All opposed?
Nice.
Brendan, you're up.
For what? What do you want?
Oh, she just got defeated by the 2.
Well, it's already in there. It's 2-3, isn't it? So I don't.
I asked for
So it
Just
was
leave it alone.
defeated.
Yep, it's defeated.
The no motion was defeated.
Because it was a tie?
Correct.
So we just leave it at $3. Correct?
No,
Brendan wins.
no,
No.
the problem was, and I was trying to correct you before you voted, was we were funding $3 Black Diamond side only, right? Turner Valley, 0. So as it stays right now, it would be
Yes.
$3 per capita Black Diamond side.
Oh, we're Diamond Valley now.
I thought the ask was for Diamond Valley.
It's for Diamond
We
Valley.
never voted on it. So in pre-amalgamation, it was only the Black Diamond side. So it would stay that way until we direct it to be for all of Diamond Valley. So, yeah.
No, her
No,
motion is for
So
Diamond Valley
she-
Council.
The motion is.
Diamond Valley.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that it was $2 for both sides
That's
together.
Yes.
To make it clear.
Yeah.
Because we were zero before.
Yes.
So we still say zero on the Turner Valley side and $3 on your side. So now.
It's $3
you
right
want to
across
motion
both.
$3, okay. So just make sure that the motion says that it's for the entire
Diamond
Diamond
Valley.
Valley.
It's done about it.
Okay, so but the motion was defeated.
So, yeah, so it's carried in the budget as that, but
I'm not saying anything.
you didn't, but it's in there, but we haven't directed it to go there.
We do that, well, once we approve the budget,
It goes.
are we not giving direction at that
But
point?
it is only budgeted for $3 for the half the community, was it not? Or did you put the
No,
full
it's
amount in
online.
there?
So through the chair, I put the full amount in.
Oh, okay, okay, that's what I.
$3 per resident for Diamond Valley.
Yeah.
End statement. Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay,
Anything else?
Heather's got the notes and then Cindy's got some.
No, so, and the
We're
other
leaving that
thing,
Deb and everything alone.
the other thing, and I would look to Corinne for a response to this, the 18,000 requested for the concert, for the Ian Tyson concert. I'd like to support that, and can we put that in this budget now?
So to address your question, Councillor Thompson, through the chair, we have put that money in.
Oh,
So
okay.
we added 25,000 to the budget for special events. So based on the discussion last week, and if we knew it was going to get defeated, we would have just removed it out.
Okay,
Okay,
so do you
Cindy,
need a motion for that then, if it's already in the budget? We support it? We need to support it via a motion,
sure,
so,
we'll do that. Brendan,
I'll make it. That $18,000 come out of special events for the Ian Tyson concert. Seed money or to the
Directed.
chamber?
memorial
Diamond
concert,
Valley.
I can't remember.
Directed to the Diamond Valley Chamber, please.
let's just let Iris write that down.
So you're going to take $18,000 from special events to be allocated for the Ian Tyson Memorial Concert?
Yeah.
And that's going to the chamber?
Please.
Yeah,
And thank
From
you.
the 2023
Special events.
budget.
Should we mention that we're basically replacing the music festival? We're not expecting a music festival? Or did you need a motion for that? But there is no Canada Day musical festival, just fireworks? I'm just, like, there's been no direction, I don't think, on that.
Thank you through the,
If I may, I think if I remember what Monique was considering is hoping that maybe some businesses could come together and have different venues hosting different things on that day. So I would recommend we keep that 13,000 available for that day in the event that they can get this going. I know it's a short time frame, but at least the budget is there because we had 11.3 for stars, parade was 25, the music festival was 18, Canada Day was 13, New Year's Eve potentially up to 10, Light Up Black Diamond, not quite sure how much that is. So we're looking at 85,000 roughly for that. We're moving stars out of there. I would still recommend we keep budget money for Canada Day, if that were to work, where local businesses can get together and do the venue idea that you've mentioned. That might be something economic development, the EDC can look at as well, is how we can support our local businesses in that way.
Does that clarify?
But we're not hosting
No,
anything,
we're
we're not
not.
expecting town staff to prepare anything other
No.
than fireworks for that day. I think that needs to be clear, and that we'll provide a beefed up corporate support policy to help maybe with these things. But we're not doing anything but fireworks. I think that needs to be clear, because the town did do the music festival in the past.
Yeah.
So I think we
Want
need
to go
that
quick
clear
answer on that
direction.
one?
thank you through the chair. Yes, I think that's reasonable. I just wanted to ensure that we've captured the cost for the Diamond Valley Day portion of Parade Day. And I don't recall if that was identified or not.
No, I just had the parade day. I mentioned the entirety. You said 25,000. Is there more with Diamond Valley?
That's the parade portion.
That's just the parade.
Right, we have typically 15,000 for the Diamond Valley Day, with the expectation that there would be some sponsorship.
400, you said 85, right? 100. You said, yeah, you said 85, right? So it's 100,000.
100,000.
events. Right there.
So that day roughly costs about 40 grand.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Yes, thank you through the chair. I don't have all the numbers specifically, but from what I can tell from previous years, just double check something.
Okay, we have a motion, we have some clarity. Are you satisfied with the answer?
Yeah, so it's not a replacement for the.
That's right, not right now.
Considered a
It's,
replacement?
that's gonna be the
That's what
negotiation
we're not doing
discussion.
music
We're
festival.
not doing a music festival on Canada Day.
Okay.
Heather.
Another quick question directed to Monique, through the chair. Our corporate grant and the community grant funding, where is it in this budget? Where's it located?
Thank you. Through the chair, typically it was embedded into the economic development funding, so it was under the line transfer to others, I believe,
Okay,
750. If you can look at 62, 750.
still there.
And in the past, it was awarded as $10,000 through Turner Valley, and the recommendation was, again, to take a portion of the event budget and then to enhance this. So there may have to be a second look at that if we anticipate that there's the full transition or even a partial transition to third parties to be able to host the events. That's not really been put in front of council. We were also waiting for some of the strategic priorities to understand the level of expectation around service levels for events. And if that were to occur, then you likely would like to prop that up if you wanted to support more initiative through third parties. But I do believe that with the event budget as we have it currently, and if we offset some of this with reducing some of the staff costs that might be involved, I just don't have the numbers crunched. I do think that that 20 to 30 for the corporate and community event would be sufficient. If we only go for what I'm going to call an enhanced event. I would not want to lose sight though on some of the smaller grants. I understand that they are absolutely time consuming, but for some of these organizations, they're small but significant amounts to be able to help offset some of the costs, such as take a look at the SPCA. You know, $500 for them goes a long ways to be able to offset the cost of being able to present the market. So how would they now be able to assist if we can develop an agreement, and if that's the direction from council through the CAO to be able to park some of that amount into another organization that would help distribute it, such as the Lions Club, then at least it's captured in that way. But I wouldn't want to lose sight of that because it is important.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We're good? All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Mr. Kelly, Cindy, what else do we have on the docket?
Yeah, I wanted to maybe look at a motion for, well, it's a negative motion now, to not hire an economic development person at this point. And to encourage our EDC to come up with projects.
That's gonna be that
But,
strategic planning conversation, I think we're gonna get into.
yeah. But I think that's kind of the direction. We don't want that.
You make it
Because it's in the
positive,
budget.
a hiring freeze regarding the EDO position for 2023.
Yeah, I would go with that.
Very good.
Just leave the monies as they are and it will
Yeah.
fold out the way it should fold out.
Exactly.
I'll take your motion, Councillor Gordon.
Sure.
All in favor? There you go. Okay, that secures that. Next,
I just have a question. The SPCA, they don't qualify for the corporate support grant. It's the community support grant that they're under.
nonprofit status.
It's a nonprofit. And they rent the flyer from us.
They do.
Because the whole point of the community support grant was for people that rented our facilities. But they are time consuming. So can we just take that 10,000? Because they come to the Lions Club and say, here's 10,000 from the town. Anytime somebody comes for something that uses one of our facilities, you can give them up to $500 extra. Would that take some workload off?
Thank you. An excellent question and suggestion. And through the chair, yes, it certainly would. It would reduce it by, at times when it really is sometimes oversubscribed, we get over 20 requests and 16 that usually go to council. They're vetted prior, so if they don't really have enough to substantiate it going forward, then they don't go to council, but that's how many I would deal with in a year.
would the chamber be an organization that could do that as well? If we were to support the chamber
The
and,
Lions has some grant process.
yeah. Well, that's.
Thank you. Again, I would suggest that it be something that's non-business, because a lot of those applications tend to be organizations that are not necessarily business related, and they're special projects. So we've also done some that are outside of that, such as OHS. If you recall, both councils had approved $3,000 grants for the vertical farm project. We've also supported their community garden initiative. We've done, not just SPCA, but we have supported some of the sports teams going, hosting tournaments or going to tournaments, and on it goes. So those are the ones that become a little bit problematic, and it's not that they're not worthy. They work really hard to be able to fundraise, but from a town perspective, it is a pick and choose, and that's why I wanted that to go to council, so that first it was public record as to where those donations were going, because they're tax dollars. If it is supplied to another organization, then I would want to be able to set criteria and an agreement as to how that would be dispersed. So I think anything that's business related, maybe event related, could stay with the chamber if you decide to offload that responsibility to another organization. And anything that's community development should be maybe placed with an organization such as the Lions Club, where they're already involved in that kind of funding to redistribute.
Conversation we can carry on.
Well, he's working on that policy, so if that's a new idea, then I'd like to see that we're not dealing with those little things. And I think for me, the requirement is you rented a facility from us, so we'll help you offset that. But these organizations are going to both, so we're cutting down your paperwork and cutting down their time going to two different organizations. So maybe instead of us giving 500 and Lions giving 500, they can
Apply for 1,000.
combine it for 1,000.
Just, if I may, through the chair, one more comment about that. The reason that that was developed, and that was about, I think I submitted to council at about, help me out, Councillor Thompson, 2011, was that suddenly I was tasked with managing the hall, and we were giving away more time than we were ever collecting revenue for. Because just at a whim, without any guidelines, it would say, no problem, you're a nonprofit, we can waive the fees. So we had, even if it's an in and out, it would be at the discretion of council to in fact waive, if you will, those revenues, which were, helping to offset some of the costs of our operations. And so I said, no, there has to be some kind of a process by which they publicly request it, and then even if it's an in and out, they're still paying the rental, they're covering their own insurance, they have to go through all that process, and then we help through the grant to be able to offset it.
That's what.
Are you incorporating Black Diamonds, for, I can't remember what it was called, but it was a similar thing, it was $2,500 for a community event, and the impetus was to bring people to the community. There had to be some sort of number associated with it, you have to give data.
Yes, through the chair, absolutely. That's, it's an enhancement of that particular program. I think it has some great criteria to it. I'm also taking a look at other communities that offer it up and blending some of that in with it. So I'm just completing the research and hopefully working with legislative services to be able to provide the right wording for the new policy.
And Veronica again.
So with the offsetting of rental for space, just making sure we can work with the agreement.
Let's answer that question.
With the arena. We already had that with figure skating clubs,
We
just
did.
making sure.
Yeah, no, it's something we have to be aware of because we also got a request from Under Hockey as well.
I mean, it's a different topic, but the arena subsidies would be something that would be looked at separately. We are going to recommend that there be some slight fee increases, just working on those at the moment. You may recall that those were dropped last year, and that we've also had some requests for subsidies subsequent to that. So those requests for further deeper discounts should also go through council because it's outside of what our regular rates are. And again, that's a donation.
Oh. You forgot.
No, I'm good with everything. I just actually wanted to know that the funding was there for when the new corporate policy and community donation policy is done. So that was my only question. Thanks for your explanation.
No, thank you.
I'd be ready to move forward with accepting as information and ask administration to bring back this with
Final number.
the requested changes and final numbers to the regular council meeting for approval.
Let's get clarity.
I do have a
Before we get
question.
there, we have a couple down here, so.
If I may, through the chair, ask a question, Mr. Beaton. We had that presentation from the curling club to bring their expenses into ours. Is that recognized in this budget at all?
Don't believe so, no. Through the chair, we haven't had a chance to fully vet the financials from the curling club and or understand the full liability to the town at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Ron, you have some thoughts?
I just want to make sure that the RCMP was coming, the estimate for next year was coming out.
On its own line.
So
I have that.
Yes, ma'am.
Just further to Jonathan's question regarding the curling club, I don't think the curling club anticipated
This year, then.
this year.
Yeah.
So going into next year, so if it can be contemplated in the next budget, that would be, I think that's where they were kind of going.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is with very little change to this document, we're gonna have it sent back, fine tuned, and brought back for our next regular business meeting of May 17th.
There's no questions.
And there's no question.
May 17th. It's just approval.
It's approval.
It's
For
approval.
approval.
We
Okay, Corinne,
have
does that sound good?
So through the chair, you heard it live.
Deputy I'd approve it right now, I even tried to get it through.
why can't we approve it right now?
Why can't
There's
we-
like $5,000 or something that's gotta get moved.
Why can't we?
I don't know. Barry, why can't we approve
This is
it?
a special meeting, it's not a count. This is
Why
a
can't we
special
approve it
meeting
right
of council, we're allowed to make that.
I believe we can,
But
but
there's some adjustments
Heather
that need
wants
to
to
be
see some
made.
adjustments.
Yeah, that's
With
The
the grass and
bottom
stuff,
line-
so?
I don't think
The
she can
bottom
do
line
that on
stays
the
the
fly.
same.
That comes out.
Yeah, those are all minor things, as long, we're approving a budget of X dollars and expenses of X dollars, and that's what we're approving. If she changes something and there's a few cents that go into reserves, more so, I do want, I think the planning department should get their business permits moved to their category too. I'd be happy to make a motion to approve
Yeah.
it, so, rather than have it on the agenda again,
Please.
because then I feel like I have to read everything again.
Yeah.
So if I may, through the chair, the amount that we have as the option to approve the budget is not going to change. So you are correct.
Yeah.
If it's just semantics of moving this to this line and it's not going, it won't change anything. It'll just provide some more transparency on some of those numbers. In the option that I've provided, it is the amount of the 14.474 million is what is actually on the motion.
Make it.
Yeah, if I may,
Hold on, we're gonna go.
just before we jump into that, I actually support Councillor Thompson on this one. Because one of the requests that I'd like to really see finalized before I actually vote for it is what are the costs we're getting this year as a one-time cost? I'd like to see that identified as a specific number before we actually go ahead. And, because that could be a significant number. Because if we don't, in my opinion, if we vote on this and have the document here without having it clearly identified as a
They are
one-time cost.
identified
There's
under
an amalgamation
amalgamation.
number line.
No, there's some other costs there too, like in planning. Some are the LUV amendment potentially, an MDP rewritten, the ICFs that we won't be carrying over to next year. And I think this helps with a level of transparency for our community so that our residents can say, okay, there was a cost with amalgamation. We've seen that. There was also associated cost because of the alignment. We can see that. Those don't carry over next year. And so that helps when we look backwards and say, this was the pre-amalgamation budgets, this was the post-amalgamation budget immediately, and then moving forward. So that's why I support Councillor Thompson. I prefer to see these amendments. They may be minor, but I love transparency from that perspective.
I'm gonna go Heather Leslie.
I don't, that's not one of the motions that we've got in here that be broke down.
It's been discussed
That was a
several times, so,
suggestion.
or was it a
The
suggestion?
amalgamation one-time costs have been broke down. Planning, I don't know, like, I don't necessarily disagree that the final document should show that, but I don't think it's gonna make a change in the numbers.
So if I may, through the chair, Councillor Gordon, so we did provide an incremental document a couple of meetings ago, which identified some of the significant costs, and there were some explanations attached to it. I can recirculate that, and so it did recognize the incremental one-time costs, and I would caution with saying that planning costs, because even though we have LUB in there this year, and we have the burn feasibility study in there as well, that particular cost center is actually going to go down next year, because in discussion with Rod, and he can certainly provide additional information on this, we have some other significant plans that we have to work on in the coming years. So I would caution with saying that even though the LUB and the burn feasibility are one-time costs, next year we have, what else would we have to work on next year, Rod?
Well, we've got the municipal development plan that we'd like to start on next year. We have an intermunicipal development plan that we need to work on. We have a municipal collaboration agreement. There's a number of engineering studies and plans that each town has adopted that need to be looked at and updated and merged into single documents. And so we hope to do an assessment of all this work in the coming month, and be able to provide council with hopefully like a 3-year strategy as to how we're going to move through these different plans and strategies in a way that makes the most sense, because they all have dependencies on one another. They all relate in different ways, so we want to work on being able to approach them in a systematic way, so we can have the council say, these are the scopes of the documents, this is how we want to sequence them, and this is how long it's going to take, and this is roughly how much it's going to cost.
Okay, thank you.
Cindy.
Yeah, I was the one that mentioned that it'd be nice to see it broken down, but we're going into budget, you said, in another 2 months. So I think that's just, that would make it easier for us on council if, when we go back into budget discussions, that those things are identified in an easier, like I know it was in all the notes that you've done, I think on the first time you presented to us, but an actual like list and column and you're going to Excel spreadsheet type stuff, like just have it so we can compare, and we'll have, because we always do last year's budget comparing to the future year budget, so if you do it for this year, even though we're passing the budget tonight, you can still create that, so then we can compare it for the next year and the future years. So I don't think it changes what we're approving here. This is, I think, one of those weird years where we actually, it's the mill rate that ends up being, normally you set your budget and that generates your mill rate, but this year we had to come up with a mill rate that was palatable because we're merging both sides. And so the budget is kind of, we're doing it backwards almost this year, it feels like. So I think we just need to get it done so they can get back to work and then take the suggestions that we've said to improve next year's budget. We're also missing, you know, the fancy package with all the little things that we'll eventually get back into.
And if I may, through the chair, and you're absolutely correct, we still intend to, at some point in time, work on that financial plan document. And you'll see in the 2024 forecast that we already have a decrease. If you look at that compared to the 2023, you'll see that we already have a decrease in that overall line by, I believe it's just almost $300,000. So that is reflecting some of what we've been able to accomplish in 2023. Now we'll be able to realize some of those savings coming into 2024. So And I do strongly believe that, you know, there's going to be more efficiencies, and even the dialogue tonight gives us some ideas of ways we can continue to streamline our operations and improve them. But Councillor Gordon, I can take you through some of the documents that have some of those incremental costs that I tried to identify, just to clarify that.
Yeah, I know, I'm behind, I'm sorry, I'm trying to catch up.
That's, no, perfectly fine, no, perfectly fine, and I'm happy to share that information.
She's
I'm
already got
okay
a
with,
motion on the floor.
I'm okay with moving forward with it tonight. I didn't even think about that, but
So you withdraw. your-
yeah, so Crane's caught what needs to happen but the dollar amount isn't gonna change that much, so I would be okay to move forward with it tonight as well.
Okay, so can you
I would
withdraw your
retract,
motion?
I would
Thank you.
retract my motion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now,
I make a motion that we
Sure.
approve the 2023 operating budget for $14,474,780.
And the 2024-2026 operating budget forecast.
Oh, and my, okay, I don't have the motion. Is that the motion?
yeah, because capital budget's in
My
the
computer's turned off.
Pardon?
capital budget.
Oh, no, capital, we have to pass that.
We have to do that
No.
separately.
Just add the
That's what we do.
2024 forecast, however the
Through
motion.
2026.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So option 2, Iris.
Okay. Any further comments? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Just before we go to capital, I did some math here to address the indifferences. I didn't do it on the businesses, but for example, I used Deputy Mayor Kelly's house and my house as perfect example. So last year, he was assessed at $450, I was assessed at $450. Using his mill rate last year, he paid $3,400. Using my mill rate in Turner Valley, I paid $3,150. Now with the blended rate of 74, just keeping it average, and my new assessment at 500,000, I'm gonna pay 37. And likewise, he went up to 500, he will pay 37. So the difference is I paid an extra 150 this year, he paid 300. That breaks down to 25 bucks a month for you, 12.50 for me. Do it on a daily basis, it's less than $1 of a raise in your taxes, and it's less than 60 cents for me. So that's kind of what we're dealing with in terms of blending the rates of a mill rate of 70. You gotta look at it in terms of thousands. It's $7.80 is what we were paying, you were paying $7.30. Now we're paying $7.40 and change with the points. So we're paying $7.40 per thousand, over $500,000. That's where we're getting to. It's pennies, but it all adds up, right? So to take that into context, when we get into capital budget, you know, about 80% of our capital budget is going to be spent in Black Diamond, about 20% in Turner Valley. So you want to talk about where's money being spent? Well, we're going to put more in Black Diamond, so that can also justify that little bit of indifference in terms of where the money's going. But we'll get there. I just want to point out those slight differences and what it actually looks like on your bill. So, capital budget, Heather.
And further to that, I think that the communications going out to the public have to be pretty clear for the reasons why we landed on this, including, you know, the 11% inflation rate, the assessment rates having gone up so much, pretty much in comparison with your inflation rates. They went up 12%, inflation rates went up approximately 11%. So we have to really communicate this. This being a transition year and the leveling out of everything. And so I think that the communication that goes out on the passing of this budget has to be very clear and precise for the public.
Yeah, totally agree.
We'll make sure that, through the chair, we'll make sure.
Layman's
Councillor
terms.
Thompson, that we have some really good speaking notes, and we do a really good media campaign on this, that we're solid on the messaging.
Cindy.
I think in that campaign, it needs to be communicated that this is only half of it. The other half is really the utility rate. So I think that can't be forgotten in the messaging, because that's where the equality will happen, is when that happens. Going to capital budget, everything looks good for me except leak detection. I thought we approved it all, like to do the whole town.
Through the chair, I made the same note. I noticed we have it at 8,000, and I think at the last council meeting,
Yeah, we did.
do all, instead of doing it in phases, do it all in one.
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, that's.
So but that's an easy fix for the amount. We can
Yeah.
adjust that quickly, or you can adjust that quickly.
Yeah, Cindy has one more.
Yeah, and then just the timing on, just given what's going on in the province, the bush buggy, that we're not taking apart the current one, putting a new one in fire season.
No, and if we
Okay.
did have an opportunity to do that, I've already spoke to the county, if they have a couple of extras that they can backfill if we need to.
Heather, you were good?
I'm good.
Yeah, you just want to point that out, and you pointed that, so we're gonna adjust that number. What was our number? Did we bring it to 50, did you say? I can't remember. Go from 8,000 to.
I
32.
thought we rounded it to 35.
Oh, 35.
Yes, that's what we did. Because
Yeah.
we said 3 times the amount.
Yeah,
But we put
because
a little on top.
Yes.
Turner Valley for the 3 years was approximately $32,000 with inflation.
Yeah.
I think we just rounded to 35.
Perfect. Okay. Corinne, I assume you're gonna make that adjustment over there, because we are gonna move ahead on this. Veronica,
I like the capital.
she liked the
We
capital.
almost approved it last meeting.
Well, we pretty much were there.
We were there.
But I'm glad we cut this because we want that asset managed to be upfront, that's the main focus. Jonathan?
No, I like it, I like what I see. And I'm glad we've got some of that improvement in front of the rink. So,
Yeah, same, I agree. One last question from Cindy and then I'll
You
take
did
it.
put on the parks ton as not as critical. Do you want to explain that?
Yes, through the chair, Councillor Halliday. If you recall, there was a request for replacing one of the tandems, which I feel we can live with for a little bit longer. And so rather than the $250,000 that was put aside for a tandem, with the hiring of some new utility folks and some adjustments of FTEs, there's some departments that are, well, utilities doesn't have vehicles, and Parks is low on vehicles. We do have some older vehicles that are still functioning, but they are due for life cycle swap out. And it would be nice to swap out one of those vehicles if need be, but given crunch, we can always make it work.
Can I ask a question through the chair? Craig, is it your intention to sell those vehicles that we're swapping out?
It would be, yes.
Okay, so we could potentially make a few $1,000s off of that.
Yeah, they'd go to auction and we could put a reserve on them and, yes.
There's a rumor I heard we were gonna buy the right-handed side drive Mitsubishis on large mass, small little.
With drift wheels?
Yeah. I love those things.
got our neighbors going, yeah.
I was doing highway cleanup with somebody who's in fleet management in Calgary, and Calgary, the city of Calgary is looking to start doing vehicles to spec for other municipalities at a cheaper rate than each municipality going out and doing things on their own, so I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't know where they are in that process, but that's what they're looking at, is that they can start getting things at better rates and help other people, other municipalities, and like custom forms and stuff. So just want to.
Yeah, through the chair, Councillor Halliday, yes, City of Edmonton's been doing that for a number of years, and I am aware of the Calgary program that's, I believe, just came online or is about to.
Yeah, it's just.
So it's something we would certainly.
You can hook you up.
It was a good conversation. Cleaning garbage.
He's a great guy. Deputy Mayor Kelly,
I'm ready to give you a motion as amended. Because we got the number.
we have the number,
We have.
give us the number.
Okay, the number is 1,384,000, I believe, as amended to reflect the adjustment from 8,000 for leak detection to 35,000. And that's just for clarity. But
Perfect.
would you like a motion?
You just gave it.
Okay, that's it.
That's the correct number?
Make sure I understand it, guys.
Number's correct?
Yes, it is correct.
$1,384,000.
Iris says good.
She got thumbs up.
Any further debate on capital budgets? All in favor? Okay. Again, I would thank you, council, thank you, administration. I again would point out that we are already 6 months, essentially 5 months
Leave it alone.
into this year.
Just leave it alone.
So
See you soon.
right back at this budget right away, and this is a transition year. Everybody, so don't feel overly, upset that if we were individual communities, we would both be looking at the same tax increase, probably worse. So, Brendan.
And I'll leave it on this point, because I'm a Black Diamond resident now, Diamond Valley resident. I'm looking forward to doing some of the campaigning stuff, in the sense of letting residents know about the increases and how they're gonna affect them. Having my taxes go up, I understand, is part of the process, and I hope that Black Diamond residents see that as well, and our businesses are gonna see some of the same things. So I'm really happy with the work that administration's done, and 2% at the end of the day, it could have been a heck of a lot worse, like you just alluded to, had we not started this process. So really, really happy overall, as a resident and a councillor.
Just to be clear, it's 2% budget, 6% on your property.
Correct.
Which, as I reflected, is a 150 to a 300 on a balanced scale, and that's using rough numbers.
Yeah. Happy.
Yeah.
Happy.
And if I may, through the chair and
Yes,
to all of council, thank you so much. I think we know that this was a little bit of a different animal as far as the amalgamated community. I don't know how, I know I'll be still very involved in the next budget cycle, but it really is our intention to go down that, 2 to 3 year, longer term planning path, giving some, stability to residents, giving them some visibility over planning these property tax hikes over a period of a couple of years. A lot of communities are starting to develop these longer term budgets, and I think they work extremely well. It allows everyone to spend less time doing this process every year, but doing it once very well and then allowing it to go through its natural progression on an annual basis. So I think that is definitely the path we want to go to. We were doing it in Turner Valley with these 2-year budgets, and I think it's super, well, what it does is it's really efficient from a time perspective for everybody, for administration and for council.
And that's what we're going to focus on, is my understanding. We're going to look at it too, with the 3rd year to overlap that election for this next one and have the projections adopted, right? So,
You bet.
Heather.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that would really work well, because I find it and have found it a real struggle when a new council comes in to catch them up. And if they've already got a budget in place and basically it's just a review of that budget and update it, it makes it a lot easier on a brand new council.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, Veronica, anything else on that agenda for us to discuss?
No, it was really a short one.
Adjourned. A short meeting.
It's a short
Short
agenda.
Adjourned. Let everybody go home.
If there's nothing else,
So.
Yep.
Do we need a motion?
oh,
to
for
let-
our Diamond Valley Chamber still.
No, we put it in the budget,
No.
that's good.
But
It's a variance, right?
are we gonna put a motion forward to let them know that the funding's been approved?
Well,
Or do you just need,
we'll just phone them out.
yeah,
Do you have it in
I think the motion would be
here
now.
in the agenda?
yeah,
Thank you. We're adjourned.
I think that we need a motion for that,
Yeah.
I really do.
Sure, notify Diamond Valley Chamber, sure, go ahead.
Didn't you-
She made it,
Well, we made a motion earlier,
Yes, we did.
just to move the money. Or
No,
20.
No, it was to allocate $18,000 from the 2023 special events budget to support the Tyson Memorial
So
Concert.
they're-
yeah, so it's done,
Thank you.
sorry.
And I'm sure you'll communicate.
Adjourned.
Thank you.
You're welcome.